Hey, what's up, guys? I just picked up this new shmup that was released on Switch and Steam today, Graze Counter GM. And I have to say, after a few runs, I'm pretty impressed with this game. So I wanted to do this video, get it out really quickly to talk about the game. So it's a vertical shooter with, as the name suggests, a heavy focus on grazing. As you can see on screen, I left the tutorial section just so you can get an idea of how it plays. So you have a shot button, you also have a slow button. You can combine the two or not, depending on what you like. You also have a laser, which is called the Graze Counter. As you can see on the bottom left of the screen, this is what she's shooting right now. This makes enemies drop stars. When you pick up the stars, it fills up your break gauge on the bottom right of the screen. So you have two gauges. And that one is a lot like the break gauge in Crimson Clover. So you get sort of superpower, you can gain a lot of points. Yeah, this is exactly what's showing on screen right now. So it's actually, early on, it's a little confusing because you have to manage those two resources, but the gameplay loop is actually pretty basic. You graze enemies, either shots or enemies, to fill up your laser gauge. Then you use laser to get stars and fill up your break gauge, and then you can get to go crazy. And when you activate your laser, you're invincible for a short period of time. And I think when you use your break, it cancels all projectiles on screen as well. So you actually don't ever need to shoot in this game. You can just clear it by grazing and then using the lasers. There's actually a pacifist mode where the game disables both shot and break that I cleared on normal today, and it was a really fun time. It's a completely different loop, but it's really fun. But for this run, so I'm actually playing on original. The game has 4 difficulties. It has novice, original, hard, and extreme. And you can also decide to play with suicide bullets on or not. So this is the second difficulty. It's actually pretty mild. It's very nice. As you can see, the bullets are pretty slow, and it doesn't get too hard. I think there's a bit of a spike as you get towards the final boss, but aside from that, I'd say it's pretty easy, and heavily recommended to beginners, because there's even an easier mode than that. So it's on the easier side. The game has a lot of additional modes. It has a boss rush mode. It has specific missions. It has an extra stage, an extra boss. It is packed with content. It has a bunch of different characters. At least I've unlocked 10 so far. I think there are more. So depending on what you do, clearing the game, clearing the different modes, you get to unlock more. That's what it seems like. Or maybe it's just based on playtime. I don't really know yet. But, there's a lot. And all the characters, they have different shot types. They have different options. You get to choose a gameplay option when you select your character. So I'm using the shield option. That makes it easier to survive, but it's not great for score. What it does is, whenever you don't have a shield and you survive for 15 seconds, then you get a shield. It gives you a shield if you're able to survive. So it's, again, pretty nice. So you have branching paths, as you can see on screen. You get to decide, I think, twice, across the run of the game, you get to decide which stage you want to take on. And they're actually branching paths that, if you don't take one of them, then you're just not going to play them for this run, which I think is pretty cool. So in this case, so far, what I like about the game, I think the art style is really good. It's strange because it's honestly a little basic, but the colors really pop out. The characters, of course, look pretty cool. And there's just an energy. I don't know if it's the explosions, the laser, or everything, but it all feels very visceral. It feels really nice. So first off, that's the first thing I like about the game. The mechanics are fun, but you have to be into grazing bullets to enjoy this. So you can see when I'm grazing the bullets, and by grazing I mean you have to get as close to them as possible, they actually change color. They turn red. So when the bullets are red, that means I'm grazing them, and I'm raising my laser gauge. I wish they just called it laser, because Graze Counter doesn't seem to mean all that much to me. But I guess that's the gimmick of the game as well. So the nice thing is, you can just get close to the bullets, and then you get a laser, and then you get to survive without too much trouble. One thing I will say about this game, however, is so this is not novice. This is original mode, but it might as well have been novice because it's pretty easy. And I feel like there's a missing difficulty between original and hard, because hard, I tried hard pretty quickly, didn't spend too much time with it yet, but it seems pretty hard. There's a pretty big gap between original and the hard. So you'll see later on that I cleared original very handily with a lot of resources yet, but for hard, I don't know yet if I'll be able to clear the game. We'll see. I probably will have to practice. The highlight of the game, I would say, is definitely the boss fights. The boss fights have really cool patterns, and you can see, which ones were designed to be grazed, which ones are a little more challenging, that, they were thinking that you might have to use the invincibility from the laser on, which, I think is pretty cool. Overall, the design is pretty great. I don't think this is a completely new game. I think this is just a revision of an existing game, because there is already a game called Graze Counter on Steam. So I don't know what they added for this one, but it does feel nice. It feels like a complete package. It's about $10 or €10 on Steam, and probably the same on Switch. And I'd say, it's definitely worth it in terms of content. It feels very polished. It's a pretty cool game. You will also see that, at least on original mode, you get a lot of resources. So you can see there's that you can choose between getting a shield, you can get resources, and you can get, I forgot what the third option is. I think it's a boost, for your score multiplier. So that's pretty similar to Crimson Clover as well, where you get to choose what power-up you want, which I think is nice. Options are always nice and fun. I do like decision-making in shmups. I think it brings a lot of depth, and it feels really interesting. So you can see I'm on 7 lives already. I think I gained a few because of scoring. But the game on original, the game is really lenient, so it gives you a lot of extends. You can get that shield. So right now I don't have a shield, but I think when I lost a life there. When that red circle is filling out, that's when I get the shield. That means 15 seconds have passed and they give me a shield. I actually just realized this. They also give you, your percentage of laser gauge, right next to your ship, which I think is really nice, because sometimes you don't get the opportunity to glance at the actual gauge, during gameplay. So it's nice to have that displayed on screen. I think in terms of quality of life additions, this game has a lot. So when you play a single run, you level up your character. See, I'm on level 73. I have no idea what that means. Maybe I should look it up online. I think it just means you're surviving. I don't think you get any gameplay benefits from that, but I could be wrong. So another boss, I think this one is the stage 3 boss. Still not too hard, so you can graze. The combination of shield and grazing makes it a lot easier. And as I say this, I think I just lost a lot, but it's really not too hard, you know. Lost another one, so yeah, this boss fight is going pretty badly. But you have lots of options. You have the shield, you have your laser that gives you invincibility, and then you have the break. And I'm on 4 lives just like that, so you know, it's also a little streaky. I think I should have been a bit more careful with the lasers. There's one thing, you get that sort of, you know, warning before the lasers come in, but they come in really late after that. So you sort of have to remember where the warning marks are. But overall, I don't think it's a super hard fight. The only one I had a bit of trouble with at first was the final boss, as you'll see. But when you learn the patterns, it's actually not that hard. See, another choice. I haven't actually played all the stages yet. I think this one is pretty cool though. In terms of visuals and music, Over the Clouds is a pretty cool theme. And see, that's what I think is interesting about the game is, so the sprites look pretty nice and very retro. You get to see the beautiful pixel art, but there's really not a lot that's animated on screen. You know, they feel very, how do you say that? Like there's just not much moving, but still it works. And I don't know if that's because of the effects, because it's pretty quick. But I don't really notice when playing, and it actually feels pretty nice. So this is an interesting thing, because usually I don't really like shmups with like sprites that are really stable and not really moving, because they feel a bit lifeless. But I don't think that's the case in this game, which is interesting. So here I already have a shield, so I'm going for the gauge. The nice thing about the gauge power-up is it gives you laser, but it also gives you a break. So you can, just use your break, get stars to try and get as many points as possible, and then use your laser to recharge. See, I got a third of the break gauge already. It also gives you extends, and I don't know what the conditions for that are, but I know I got a few extends. And it feels a lot like Crimson Clover in that sense. So there's dialogue with the characters. There's some sort of sci-fi story that honestly doesn't seem all that interesting, although the characters are cute. But I noticed the dialogue changes depending on your character, and there are a lot of characters, so that's also pretty cool. It reminds me of Toho, actually, in that sense. That, you get the cute little girls, and there's that story, and they all have their own sort of personality and stuff. So if you're into that, then you might like this game. The gameplay is pretty different though. This is a pretty cool boss as well. See, I didn't know she was going to do that attack. That's a bit of a gotcha attack. Yeah, I think what you're supposed to do is use the laser when she does that, so you just save it to avoid that attack. But as you can see, overall, nothing too challenging. I'm on 6 lives already. I think I only really struggled with the stage 3 boss, but everything else has been smooth sailing so far. And this is the final stage already. And I think it's pretty short stage, but the bosses are pretty well done. Those sort of laser cubes are kind of strange, you know. You need to be careful with them. You can't destroy them with normal shots, so you have to use laser. The music is really good. I hope you can hear the music, because I really like it. I think the sense of style in this game is pretty nice. So again, I'd say it's not perfect. I don't think it's on the level of something like Crimson Clover or even Blue Revolver, but I don't think it's all that far either. You know, it's a pretty well made game. It's really fun to play and has a lot of content. I can see myself playing this a lot, you know, trying to get higher scores. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a friend, and she gives you an item. See, the patterns are actually pretty sparse in this. If you play hard mode, they're much more difficult. Which I think I'll try to go for hard mode 1cc, but I don't know if I'll make it because it seemed a lot more difficult. Which is a little unfortunate. You know, it's good to have easier modes for beginners, and really I think most players are actually beginners. But I think you should really have... One thing that a lot of shmups are struggling with is intermediate modes. You know, for a lot of them, it's either too easy or too hard. I think, you know, people have been talking about the M2 ports recently, and those usually have a super easy mode, which I do think is a little too easy. You know, it's nice for people who usually don't play shmups, I guess. But in terms of intermediate modes, there are a few on those ports, but I feel like the gap between the intermediate modes and the hard modes is sometimes a little too high. This is the final boss, I guess. So I have 9 lives at this point. I'm doing pretty well. And I'm gonna spoil it. This is actually not the final boss. There's one right after that's a lot more challenging. This one I found to be pretty easy, because she gives you easy shots to graze, which means you can get refills on your laser really easily. And those patterns feel very Toho-like, you know. And the trick is you have to graze the bullets and then use the laser to clear out the screen. I do like how the health bar of the boss is right on top of them, so you don't have to look up at the top of the screen. There is a timer there, but it's pretty lenient, so you don't need to focus on it. And this is the actual final boss of the game. As far as I know, there is no TLB, but maybe on some of the harder mode there is. There's definitely an extra stage that's, you know, completely different, with a completely different boss as well, and I haven't done that. It seems very challenging. So this fight is pretty cool. And when I played the game for the first time, I think I died on this one. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this first pattern, so I just, I just dodge it on the side, just macro dodge it. Which is pretty nice. I do like how the game gives you a lot of options to deal with the challenges. I like shmups like these, and I'm usually not a huge fan of shmups where you have to be super precise and just have to play by the rules of the game, and where you can't really improvise or be creative. And I know that must sound a bit funny because overall shmups are very much based on memorization and perfection and training, but I do like having a sense of when I'm playing having to make specific decisions based on the information that I have. I think that makes it more dynamic and exciting. See, I still have 8 lives, so definitely gonna clear at this point. It's just a matter of time. Being patient, grazing some of these patterns which are pretty easy. I'll definitely try for hard next, because I feel like original is a bit too easy for me. Or maybe I could play for score using a different ship and different option. We'll see. The game, I don't think the game has online leaderboards, which is a shame. It also doesn't have a replay system, but it has just about everything else. Training mode seems extensive, in terms of difficulties, ships, stages, content. It's a pretty cool game. So I got to the end, 1cc with 9 lives yet, which kind of shows how easy this mode really is. And it's not even in the novice mode, which is crazy. And so, at the end, they figure out what the actual system was. I think this is some sort of simulation, and people are hacking into the network, and some people get trapped in there. It's kind of a weird story, It's definitely on the funny side. But yeah, I'd say overall, if you're even mildly interested in this, the game has a demo. I actually tried the demo first before buying the game. And you get to play the first 2 stages, and you get to try 4 different ships. So it's definitely more than enough to get an idea on whether you'd like to play this game. I would recommend it. There's no, one thing I should mention is that there's no tate mode, so you can't rotate your screen. I feel like it's sort of okay because the way the game is presented, the panels that are on the side of the screen are transparent. So, sometimes you can see enemies come up on the sides and you get to see the background a bit more. So it's done pretty well. I don't really mind not having tate for this game, but I do prefer when games offer that option. I think this is an indie game. I haven't heard of Picuri Software before. And I'd say, we're getting a lot of good indie games in the shmup genre recently. So Gunvein was another one. I think they're indie. But yeah, I again recommend this game. Picuri Software, that's it. I think they're Japanese. Shmups never die. That is true. So keep shmupping, enjoy the games,